really pay a lot of attention to the technology when it was first released at Ignite 2023. And I didn't pay a lot of attention because I was using Defender Application Guard. I was using Windows Information Protection. I was using things like Defender for Endpoint's integration with Defender for Cloud Apps to block and sanction certain web applications. And what I didn't realize at the time was that this web content filtering, the web content filtering that we have in MDE is duplicated in Secure Service Edge. And when I noticed that, I thought, wait a minute, Microsoft's not really big on giving me two totally different mechanisms to do the same thing. Wonder what's going on here. So, digging into it, they are different mechanisms. There's two things going on in Defender for Endpoint. One is web content filtering, and yes, that's in Secure Service Edge. It's just a one-to-one capability. But in Defender for Endpoint, it's processed at the client through a list that's downloaded from the service. Secure Service Edge is processed at the server. As I said in my previous video, Microsoft much prefers that we give admins the ability to enable and track things server side, because then we can get much closer to real-time enforcement. Now, that's not actually the thing that I think is sexy. The one that I think is sexy, and the reason why I'm talking about it now, the other thing we could do with that integration with Defender for Cloud Apps and Defender for Endpoint was mark apps as unsanctioned. And if you did that, sure, fine, you could generate a block script in the format of whatever your network edge device is. But for organizations that don't have firewalls, or organizations that have a lot of remote workers, it didn't really work super great. So they gave us the ability to, when we block an application or sanction it in Defender for Cloud Apps, write all of the URLs that are associated with that application, or domains, if you will, not URLs, write those as custom indicators of compromise. It's really kind of cool, but it's also kind of heavy-handed, right? They're not necessarily indicators of compromise, but that was the mechanism available to allow Smart Screen to do things like block or warn when users tried to access it. There's also the same mechanism that can be leveraged to pull administrative alerts. Again, really cool, not elegant. Secure Service Edge, though, gives you the ability to tie the applications that your users are working with not into Defender for Cloud Apps, but into the enterprise applications list surfaced out of Entra. And Microsoft is working very hard to add a lot of applications to that list. Now, what that does is, again, it takes things from being indications of compromise, which these aren't necessarily, and allows us to view them as governance actions. I want to be really clear with that I am not saying that this is a replacement for app governance in Defender for Cloud Apps, because that's actually a different thing about managing OAuth consents. But why are we talking about this? Why am I talking about it? Again, as I said in the previous video, I've been doing a lot with Defender App Guard, building out all the custom lists of the domains and setting up network boundaries and configuration profiles and all that stuff. That's a lot. It's a lot managed in Intune, and it's not really achieving what we want, which is to have a set of accesses that pertains to the user, not the device, that is updatable in real time, not based on Intune's refresh cycle, and that doesn't necessarily correlate to compromise, but to governance. And so, one of the things I think is really neat that they did with this, right, is basically Secure Service Edge is acting like a VPN tunnel, if you will. It's not tunnel for MAM or any of that stuff. It's an Entra capability, and it's Entra because it's identity and access management, right? So we're managing access. So it's gonna live in Entra. It lives in Entra. It's gonna allow you to define what applications your users can go to and how they get there. Now, that framing sounds a lot to me like another workload that had been bridged between Defender for Cloud Apps and conditional access, which was conditional access app control, which basically uses Defender for Cloud Apps as a reverse proxy to get to the applications that you want users monitored in. That's a lot. Again, inelegant design. It works, but you got to know where all the little bits and bots and controls and dials are. This puts it all in Entra. It's all right there. You just set it up, and then you manage access to that with conditional access control in the way that conditional access control works favorably, where, okay, a user has logged in successfully, and now what access should they have based on the device, the location, whatever else you want, the risk profile for the user, right? All that kind of fun stuff. Instead of putting it into a weird workload lift where you're just telling conditional access that this app should be used as a reverse proxy. So I think it's a much more elegant solution. And one of the things I'm really excited about with it is that for Entra P1 customers, you can actually enroll your Microsoft 365 apps directly into Secure Service Edge to achieve what corporate customers wanted to do 8 years ago, wasn't supported at the time, was take all their M365 data and route it through ExpressRoute. Microsoft never wanted you to do that. They begrudgingly gave the ability, but this is much more elegant. Take that lift off of your VPNs, take that lift off of bizarre integrations between conditional access policies, Defender for Cloud apps, put it straight in Entra. There you can also manage the SSO, the provisioning, all that kind of fun stuff that's built into managing enterprise apps. So, hope that was helpful. Thanks for joining. Catch you next time.